Hey everybody, and welcome to my plus size grandma. By now I'm pretty sure that you have heard part one of my my confession of my men collection, which was 70, just in case if you didn't get to that part yet. Okay, so this is part two of it. I'm just gonna be on here for a little while. So I know a lot of people probably look at me funny now and be like, well, that girl was a whore. Well, you got to understand, it wasn't really a whore thing. It wasn't about sex or whoring like that. If anything, I was hoarding people. Let me say it like that. I was hoarding men. I was taking these men and putting them all into this little box. And literally like a little box with their information and stuff, and they were my 70 men that I collected over the course of 6 years. 6 years, 70 men. Never felt a thing for them, never loved them, wasn't emotionally invested, didn't care what they were going through. I just wanted to talk, and I just wanted to be doing something. I loved it when I could get a reaction out of them. Some days I would create scenarios happening and nothing would be happening, and I make it seem like I was going through so much emotional stress just to see the looks on their faces, or to hear them say certain words to me and to see their vulnerable side come out. I was a vulture. I was in a vicious cycle, and I'm going to be talking about that cycle in my Kiva class, and I thank God allowed me to go through that and survive it so that I could come back and help other women and men, because at that time, as I stated, I was cold-hearted and that ice had came over my heart, and the only thing that broke that ice was deep down inside, I really loved my daddy. And that love came through when I needed it the most, right when I was about to really lose it all. It came through a nervous breakdown. And so when the Bible says all things are working for your good, you got to understand that means even the bad things that are going on in your life, God has a way of setting you up to come back and have your victory. That's why now when I go through trials and tribulations, that I don't sweat it like that, because I know if God can bring me up out of something like that, a deep fog, a heaviness that limited my visibility and my quality of life, then I know that He can continue to bless me through all the things that I may go through now. Now, will I suffer persecution for all that? Yes, I am. Have I reaped what I sow? Yes. Heck yeah. Reaping is part of it. Oh my God, the seeds you plant, believe me, they coming back. They coming back. And you have to learn how to still stand your ground in faith and know that all things are working for your good, as I said. So with these guys, when I was I really want to talk about how I would play on their emotions. And I'm just going to be on here 15 minutes. That's my time limit with it, and that's it. I would play with their emotions. Like I said, I would get into their head. I would find out their weaknesses. I didn't care nothing about their strengths, because the strengths couldn't do nothing for me. So for them to brag to me about what it is they do and stuff, how many cars they had and how much money they had, that wasn't my thing. I wasn't into material things. I wanted to know your mind. I wanted to know, how could I bring you down? It don't make sense, but yeah, that's where my mindset was. I didn't want to be happy for nobody. And I wasn't happy for anybody because of the simple fact of the things that I had been through. So why would I be happy? Why would I be happy for you when I wasn't even happy for myself, So you got to understand where I'm coming from. I was a broken woman, missing a lot of pieces. And the men that would tell me that I was bitter, I'd be like, well, you don't know what you're talking about. And because I wasn't emotionally invested in them, I would cuss them out, and guess what? Move on to the next. I ain't got no feeling for you, no way. You ain't telling me nothing that I ain't heard before. So skip you, You go back to where you come from, and I'm going to move on to the next. Because a couple of guys would call me out on it, and they would say that I was just a great manipulator and stuff like that. And I was like, in my head, though, I didn't feel like I was manipulating anybody. I was actually, in my head, I felt like I was operating from a genuine place. But as I became saved and I look back on it, I was operating from a false place, a place that was not realistic. It was real, the things that were happening, but I was operating from a mindset that was, it just wasn't right. That mindset wasn't right at all for how I treated those guys. And women, I don't encourage you to seek revenge on anybody, because that was the center of it all. Jesus was not the center of my life at that time. He was not the center. I wasn't praying. I wasn't trying to be churchy. None of that. I was an alcoholic. I was out here just doing my things, just sowing my bad seeds. That's what I was doing. So he wasn't the center of my life, but the center of my life was seeking revenge. I wanted revenge. I wanted them to pay for what they did to me. I had a point to prove, and who I was proving that point to was actually, I guess, my ego, because I wasn't even talking to those guys anymore. One of them moved away. I think he went back to Texas, and I didn't hear from him for years. And the other one, he just went on about his business too. So who I had to prove the point to was not even them. I was trying to convince myself that I still had it, that even though I went through what I went through, that I still could pull men. And I kept pulling them and pulling them and pulling them and pulling the life out of them. And at the same time, I'm feeling like it's giving me life to pull and drain them down, but not knowing that I'm headed in a darker and darker place. And so when I became Trina was like the master of manipulation. I would not wish a Trina in nobody's life. Trina actually went hard, went for not only the men, but was seeking to devour their families as well. It didn't matter if you was a baby's mama, if you was an ex-wife. She wanted to remind you of how bad your life was. And when I tell you, when I look back over that is, it's so disgusting, and it just it gets to me sometimes when I talk about it, but I have to talk about it because women are out here, and women do feel like I have to be this other person in order to make it through the day. I don't like who I am. At that time, I hated who I was inside. I didn't like how I looked at. First of all, let me describe to you in very vivid details of how I felt that I looked it. Despite how many men said I was beautiful, I couldn't stand a compliment. I would customize that compliment me. Don't compliment me. That's how I would be. Because in my head, I was this fat, ugly duckling. I was this fat woman who had been cheated on, who had been shamed, who had been disrespected, who couldn't do anything right. I was this fat woman who was nothing but a bunch of little bees all in one bundle. I had actually taken on everything that those guys planted in my head. That's who I was trying to be. Who they planted on, those seeds they planted in my life that were bad and corrupt, and call me this and call me that. I actually tried to live that stuff. Well, I didn't try. I did live that stuff out. I was very bad. Some of the guys would come up to me. It got so bad, y'all, that I was not only verbal abusive, but I was physically abusive. You don't have no idea how dangerous a woman walking around scorn is. How aggressive this woman really is. When this woman is to this point of aggression, she will hurt you. She will hurt you. She doesn't care. She will cut you. She will tried to kill you. And I felt myself to the point where it was some guys who didn't even know me that well. And if they just say simple little things, I would slap them hard. And it wasn't nothing bad that they said, but that was my behavior that I learned over the years. So I would slap them. I would jump on them. I didn't care what size you was, how old you was. If I had it in my heart that day that I was going to fight you, that I was going to fuss with you, guess what? That's what happened. No matter how much you try, and don't avoid me, don't ignore me, because that's the matter I would get. The more that the man would ignore me, I would get madder and madder. So whenever he finally would come from the ignoring phase, that's when I would unleash. I guess you could call that, just sitting around waiting for the right opportunity. I waited for the right opportunity, and then when I got my chance, guess what? It was a fight. I wanted to prove to you that my strength wasn't only mentally, but it was also physically. So I fought these guys. I fought these guys all the time. That was my nature. Start something and keep it going. And that had to be, that was several guys. I can't even keep count of how many it was. There were some guys that I would go back to, and literally, like, if I would find out like a guy was stalking me or something, because stalking does come with that territory, by the way, because these guys literally really fall in love with you, and they want to know everything about you, so they begin to stalk, because I had them where their mind was obsessed with me. My body, my looks, everything. They never saw me in like the way I do now on Facebook posts and stuff. Like I can go on there now with my natural hair and stuff. They never saw me outside of my costume. That's what I called it, a costume, because that's exactly what it was. They never saw me outside of that. They always saw me with the good hair, the good makeup, the good clothing on. You never see me any other way. You saw me with the nails done, the toes done, all of that. And so today, the effects of that today is I love myself regardless. I don't have to have all the wigs, all the nails done. I mean, literally, it was getting to a point where I was going every week to get my nails done so bad, and till my enamel and stuff on my nails was eating off really bad. That's how deep I was into making sure I put on this great performance for these guys, and they didn't even realize it was a performance. To them, they thought they was getting a woman that they was fixing to marry, that they could ask to marry. I have rings. I have rings here somewhere. Somewhere in this house, I got like 3 rings from engagement rings from guys that wanted me to marry them. And I'm going to tell y'all this story about this guy, and then I might end it. But this guy, he was a kind of big guy. And for Christmas, he was like, I want to ask you something. And so I snuck out my house, and I snuck out because I didn't want nobody to know where I was going. Put on my little costume and my character. And this here just happened to be Trina, as he knew me as Trina. I went and met this guy, and right there in the parking lot. I didn't even know he was going to do it. But right there in the parking lot. Hold up, y'all. I got to get my pizza out the oven. It's burning. It's burning. It's burning. Oh. Gotcha. All right, just the way I like it. Cheese burn on top. Okay. So I didn't know this guy was going to ask me to marry him. And that's what he did. As soon as I pulled up in the parking lot. Because, mind you, I don't let nobody come to my house. For the simple fact is I'm playing so many guys that I can't have all you guys coming to my house, interrupting my flow. Because when I'm home, this is who I am. So I couldn't have guys coming to my house. So I had to meet him to get my Christmas presents and stuff. And as he gave me the Christmas presents, he says, check out this box right here. And it was a big box. And so I opened it in front of him because he wanted me to. He told me to. And I put on this smile like I was so happy. Oh, my God, look here. What you got? I had all this excitement in my voice.